Hi everyone, welcome back. Thanks for joining us today. We've got a brand new story to share with you. So let's begin. My name is Arthur, and for as long as I can remember, I've lived in the shadow of my older brother, Donald. He had this natural charm and was good looking too. It was like he belonged wherever he went. Me? The younger brother. It always felt like I had to prove something. It wasn't that I resented Donald, at least not back then. It was just how things were. He was the golden child, the one my mother adored, the one who always seemed to get the best of everything. If there were two gifts under the Christmas tree, his would always be just a little better. If we both wanted something, he'd get it first. When we fought as kids, my mom never really got mad at him. She'd just tell me to stop being difficult. It became a pattern in my life. Donald got the better clothes, the better opportunities, and the kind of attention I could never seem to attract. Meanwhile, I had to work twice as hard just to get noticed. But even with all of that, I never let it turn into bitterness. I just kind of figured that was the way things were. I had to make my own way without expecting things to be handed to me. And that's exactly what I tried to do. I still remember the first time I saw Nadia. She was effortlessly beautiful, with a gorgeous smile. I loved her quiet confidence, and that was magnetic to me. It didn't take long before I was completely taken with her. She wasn't just attractive. She was easy to talk to, and she actually seemed interested in me. I never really had that before. I spent so much of my life in my brother Donald's shadow, always being the one people overlooked, but with Nadia, it felt different. She made me feel like I mattered. I wasn't rich, not even close. I was just a guy trying to find his way, working whatever jobs I could. But that didn't stop me from doing everything I could to make her feel special. If I had money, I spent it on her. Dinners, gifts, little surprises, just to see her smile. If I didn't, I'd get creative, write her notes, plan simple dates, whatever I could think of. I never held back. Loving her felt like the most natural thing in the world. And I never even considered the possibility that she might not feel the same way. At that time, I thought I had found something rare, something real. I didn't know that I was the only one who felt that way. When you're in love, you tend to overlook things that should be obvious. But looking back now, the signs were there, clear as day. One of the biggest things I ignored was how excited Nadia always got whenever there was a family gathering. At the time, I thought she just enjoyed being around my family. She always made sure to look her best, spent extra time getting ready, and would even ask me days in advance if we were attending. It felt nice to have a girlfriend who actually wanted to be involved in my life. But what I didn't see was that her excitement wasn't about spending time with me. It was about seeing Donald. I remember moments that should have made me question things. Whenever Donald walked into a room, I could feel the shift in her energy. She would sit up straighter, smile more, and even change the way she talked. She wasn't outright flirting, but her enthusiasm always seemed to peak when he was around. When he spoke to her directly, she gave him her full attention. But back then, I chalked it up to admiration. I figured she just saw him the way a lot of people did, charming, confident, and someone worth listening to. I never once considered that there might be something more. But the truth is, I was too naive to connect the dots. I loved her, and in my mind that was enough. I trusted that she loved me back, and I had no reason to question her loyalty. I had no idea what was happening right under my nose. While I was out there grinding, trying to build a future for me and Nadia, she was sneaking around with my brother, Donald. Looking back, it's almost embarrassing how blind I was to the signs. I never imagined that my own girlfriend would betray me with my own brother. I never even considered it a possibility. In my mind, Nadia was the love of my life, and Donald was just my older brother, the guy who had always been ahead of me in everything. It never crossed my mind that he'd take this from me too. I thought Nadia was just waiting for the right time, just like I was. But in reality, she was already slipping away. I just didn't know it yet. One day, my mother called for a family meeting, something she rarely did unless it was serious. So when I walked into the living room and saw my father sitting there, frail and distant, barely aware of his surroundings, I knew something big was coming. My brother, Donald, was already there, sitting with his arms crossed, saying nothing. I had no idea what was about to hit me. Then, my mother dropped the bombshell. Nadia will be marrying Donald. Just like that. No build-up or explanation. For a second, I thought I had misheard her. Maybe she misspoke. Is this some kind of sick joke? But the look on her face told me otherwise. She wasn't joking. She wasn't even trying to soften the blow. My mind couldn't process it fast enough. I had spent years loving Nadia, planning a future with her, giving her everything I could despite not having much. And my mother is saying this? I looked at Donald, searching for guilt, hesitation, or a statement. But he sat there like a statue, eyes blank, mouth shut. He didn't confirm or deny anything. I turned back to my mother. What? Why? My voice cracked as I spoke, my hand shaking. I needed an answer, any reason, something that could make this make sense. All I got was silence. She didn't even blink. My father, weak and barely present, said nothing. It was like he wasn't even in the room. I asked again, louder this time. Why? Nothing. Just the same cold, indifferent expression on my mother's face. Like she had already made up her mind, and whatever I felt didn't matter. At that moment, I realized something. The decision had already been made. I was just there to be informed, not considered. Without another word, I stood up and walked out. After walking out of that so-called family meeting, my hands were shaking as I pulled out my phone. I called Nadia. It rang. No answer. I waited a few minutes. So, I sent her a text. Call me back. Please. Nothing. Another call, straight to voicemail. My heart sank. I called again, but this time, the call didn't even ring. That's when I realized she had blocked me. I just stood there, phone in hand, staring at the screen like an idiot. My mind couldn't keep up with what was happening. A few hours ago, I thought I had a future with this woman. Now, she was marrying my brother, and I wasn't even worth a conversation? I refused to believe it. There had to be some kind of mistake. I jumped in my car and drove straight to her apartment. When I knocked on the door, I heard movement inside. She was there. I knocked again, calling her name. Nadia opened the door. Just talk to me. Silence. Then, I heard her footsteps moving further away. That was it. I don't even remember how long I stood there, but eventually, I had no choice but to leave. I felt sick. I needed to talk to someone who could make sense of this, because I sure as hell couldn't. So I called my best friend. The moment he picked up, I blurted everything out, the meeting, the silence, the fact that my own mother arranged for Nadia to marry Donald, like I never even existed. He was just as shocked as I was. But what could he say? What could anyone say to something like this? He told me to meet him at a bar, and for the first time in my life, actually wanted a drink. I wanted something to shut my brain off, even for a few hours. So I drank. A lot. Glass after glass. But no amount of alcohol could numb the feeling of betrayal burning inside me. I sat there, trying to figure out why. Why did no one say anything? Why did my mother decide this? Why did Nadia go along with it? Why was I being tossed aside like this? I had no answers. Just an empty glass and a pain in my chest that wouldn't go away. The day Donald married Nadia was the day I disappeared. I didn't say goodbye to anyone. I just left. I sold everything I owned, my old car, my furniture, even the few things I once thought were important. Nothing mattered anymore. The only thing that kept me standing was the idea of getting as far away as possible. While my mother and my brother were celebrating their perfect little arrangement, I was already on a bus out of town, carrying nothing but a backpack and whatever cash I could scrape together. That was my last connection to my old life. Once I stepped off that bus in a new city, I wasn't Arthur, the guy who lost everything. I was just another face in the crowd, and that was exactly what I needed. I had a cousin in the city. We weren't particularly close, but he had a place, and that was good enough. When I showed up at his door, he didn't ask too many questions, and I didn't offer any answers. I just needed time to figure things out. And that's what I did. I threw myself into work, any kind of work that paid. Construction, deliveries, late-night shifts at a warehouse. If it put money in my pocket, I did it. I didn't complain. I didn't slow down. I worked until my body ached, and then I worked some more. Sleep wasn't important. Food wasn't important. The only thing that mattered was making money. I stopped trusting people, especially women. It wasn't that I hated them. I just couldn't bring myself to believe in love or relationships anymore. That part of me had been burned to the ground, and I had no intention of rebuilding it. I learned my lesson. No one gets close. No one gets a chance to use me again. Every dime I made, I kept. No more spending on others. No more trying to impress anyone. If it wasn't helping me get ahead, I didn't waste my money on it. I ate well, took care of myself, and stayed focused. I learned new skills. I built discipline. And slowly, I climbed. Over the years, I started meeting the right people. Business owners, investors, people who had control over their own futures. I listened. I learned. I applied everything they taught me. And before I knew it, I wasn't just surviving anymore. I was thriving. 5 years later, I had everything I once thought was impossible. Money, status, a lifestyle most people only dream of. I had built myself from nothing, and no one had a say in my life anymore. It had been years since I left that town behind. I never planned on going back. But then, one evening, I got a call from my cousin. My father had passed away. It wasn't shocking news. He had been sick for a long time, even before I left. But still, hearing that he was gone made something inside me pause. He may not have been the strongest presence in my life, but he was still my father. If nothing else, I owed it to him to at least show up and pay my respects. That was the only reason I decided to go back. Nothing more. Returning to that place after all those years felt strange. When I arrived at the funeral, the silence around me said everything. My mother's eyes scanned me like she was trying to figure out if I was really her son. Donald? He looked like he had swallowed a brick. And Nadia, she was still beautiful. But there was something different about her now. Probably motherhood. But the glow she once had seemed dimmer. None of them said much to me. I didn't say much to them either. I wasn't there for them. The funeral went by in a blur. People talked. Some cried. Others just stood around, probably more interested in gossip than grief. I kept my distance. As soon as it was over, I was ready to leave to where I will be spending the night. But then, my phone buzzed. A message. It was from Nadia. I stared at the screen for a while before opening it. The message was long. She apologized for ghosting me all those years ago, said she regretted how things went down. Then she asked if we could meet. She wanted to talk, to explain. A part of me wanted to ignore it, but there was something I had never been given, an explanation. I had spent years wondering what really happened, why my own mother had pushed Nadia to marry my brother. So I responded. I agreed to meet. Because, after all these years, I deserved to know the truth. The next day, we met at a cafe. A quiet, out-of-the-way spot, just like Nadia had asked. It wasn't lost on me that she picked a place far from town, somewhere no one would recognize us. Was she ashamed? Or she wanted privacy? Either way, I wasn't here for a stroll down memory lane. I wanted answers, and after all these years, I was finally going to get them. She was already sitting by the window when I walked in. As I approached, she smiled like nothing had happened, like we were old friends catching up after years apart. And then, as soon as I sat down, she reached for my hand. I pulled my hand back. We're here to talk. Nothing more. The smile faded from her face, but she nodded. Okay. For a moment, she hesitated, like she was trying to decide how much of the truth to tell me. Then she sighed, her fingers fidgeting with the napkin in front of her. Arthur, I was cheating on you with Donald. I felt nothing. No shock, no anger, just the quiet confirmation of something I had already figured out. She kept talking, her voice softer now. I got pregnant, and your mother said I had to marry him. She paused, waiting for me to react, but I just stared. I didn't want to, Arthur. I swear. But they forced me. I had no choice. No choice. That was the excuse she was going with. She wanted me to believe she was the victim here, that she had been pushed into this life against her will. I didn't say a word. I just watched her. Her voice wavered. I still love you. She reached for my hand again, but I didn't move. I wish we could stay in touch. That was it. She wanted to keep me around, just in case. She sighed, looking down at the table. Life with Donald hasn't been easy. He never loved me the way you did. I pushed my chair back and stood up. I didn't need to hear any more. Now I know everything I needed to know, I said calmly. Have a good life. Then I walked out. I didn't look back. I never would. That night, when I got back to my place, I sat in silence for a long time. No TV, no music, just me and my thoughts. It was strange. For years, I had imagined this moment, coming face to face with Nadia, hearing her side of the story. But now that it had happened, I didn't feel anger, and I didn't feel relief. I just felt done. Everything I needed to know was finally out in the open, and it only confirmed what I had already figured out. I was never truly important to her. I was just an option, a backup plan, until something better, or in this case, someone better, came along. And that was the most important lesson I took from all of this. Success, I realized, was the best revenge. I didn't need to get back at Nadia. I didn't need to prove anything to my mother or Donald. The fact that I had built a life far greater than the one they tried to trap me in was enough. If I had stayed, if I had let their betrayal break me, then they would have won. But I didn't. I left, I worked, and I created something for myself. And now, here I am, living the kind of life I once thought was impossible. That's all the revenge I'll ever need. But beyond revenge, this whole situation taught me something about people. Betrayal isn't just about someone doing you wrong. It's about seeing their true colors. I spent years feeling like I had lost something when Nadia left, when my own mother pushed me aside for Donald. But looking back now, I didn't lose anything. I gained clarity. I now know exactly who I can and cannot trust. And trust? That's something people have to earn. I gave mine away too easily before, thinking love and loyalty came naturally. They don't. If someone values you, they'll show it in their actions, not just their words. Now as for love, I don't know. I won't lie to you and say I believe in it the way I used to. Maybe I never will. Maybe that part of me is gone for good. But what I do know is that I'm thriving. My life is in my hands, and for the first time, I feel completely in control. That's all that matters to me right now. So what do you think? What would you have done in my shoes? Let me know in the comments.